sort of face. It's got a more blunted shape where instead of being long and sort of tapered, it has this sort of, very, I don't know what you'd call it, a teardrop sort of shape. The stripes or bands are frequently sort of interrupted or crooked. Right? You can see that they break and move. These guys are farmed usually in near Sacramento, a really nice farm, and they come to us in super shape. I mean, if you look at the eye, it's like bulging right out. Slime's kind of pretty well washed off, but if you look at the gills, look at the gills. That's all. So bright pink, probably the freshest fish you've gotten. These guys are in the round.
Sorry.
Some of this red coloration is probably some bruises, so look out for marks underneath it where it may have gotten sort of bruised when it was being harvested. Because that just looks like he got whacked,
Do we worry about worms with these as much?
No, because they're farm raised, there's probably less of that stuff. And the worms actually sort of complete their life cycle in the stomach of seals. Especially the most common one, the Anisakis that you see. So here's what I want you to do. Just like this, right? We're going to open up the belly, use your scissors. This is really easy with scissors. You'll get to the sort of breastplate, right? It may take a little muscle. If you hit the right spot, faster. You can usually blast right through, all the way to the mouth, right? So just to look at it, it's open right the way down, right? And these guys are really fat. That's all like just fat stores. These are pretty chubby fish. This fish go.
So the wild one will be way longer and bigger?
The wild one is this is a cross between a wild, like a saltwater fish and a freshwater fish.
Okay.
So they like kind of salty water, brackish water. Right? So it may just be a bruise. It could also be something less nice. Here's the next thing, right? I think with the first fish, I'm gonna have you we're gonna cut it and skin it. We'll get into scaling and subsequent fish because it's such a freaking train wreck of a thing, scale fish. I want you to remove all the fins, because some of them are really sharp, like needle sharp, and can make a pretty deep wound that can then get sort of encapsulated and you get really deep infections that hurt like the dickens. I mean, that plunged a quarter inch into your finger may actually leave stuff behind, and then it's really pretty awful. So I want you to just use your scissors to cut through all the points and those sort of blunted ends from where you cut them. You don't have to cut them short right near the skin, but like that's far less of a risk than that. Right, so the pectoral fins, get the pelvic fins, and certainly when you start scaling the fish, along the gill plate, there are a number of small pointy projections like that. I mean, that's enough to gash your finger. You can just do that. This is why scissors are pretty brilliant for this. Right, so I can sort of whiz through a lot of this stuff. Some of the spines are really, really thick and hard. Just sort of move your scissors out towards their tips where they're not quite so thick and hard. You really just want to take the pointy bit off. That's all you're worried about. So then I've got a fish, and I'm not worried about the tail fin, but I've got all of his pointy bits off. And this is probably more important when you start scaling them, because you're going to be rubbing up his body with all those pointy bits coming right at your fingers. Right, so here's the next step, right? Open up the mouth and see where this is the jaw and this is the main body. See where they meet? Right there, you see that?
Yep.
Right? I want you to put your scissors and separate the gill from the jaw. See where I am? So there's the lower jaw right there. Separate now from the gills. I want you to then separate the gills from the fillets on either side, and you can get a pretty good view here. See where the gills meet the side, this gill plate on the side. So separate that, and just sort of cut around them. Right? And once you get started, It's pretty simple. So we're just cutting through this thin sort of membrane in between the fillet and the gills. So now, if I give it a little yank, right, the gills are pretty well free from the sides of the fillet. And so the next thing we need to do is get our knife. I don't need to open the mouth because these guys are much smaller. I want to get my knife flat against the spine, and I'm just going to shave the gills. You see where I am? See how the knife, the scissors are just, so imagine the spine here. I'm just going to shave the gills off the top of the spine. So I'm going to just tuck the tip of the scissors in there and shave the gills off of the spine there. So you're not cutting down, you're not trying to cut through any bones, you're just shaving the gills where they sort of wrap around the spine like that. And then you grab the gills and pull it for the exit. So
Does this one a swim bladder?
it does. You can see the swim bladder right there. I left part of his liver behind. So you can see the little air sac.
Can you turn it?
See the little air sac right there? So it's pretty cool. They can make air, I guess. If you want to cut it open, you can see how much space it occupies.
So it's kind of like a submarine.
A little bit, yeah.
Yeah.
Totally, yeah. They have to find neutral buoyancy. They just drift ever downward until they hit the, or have to swim, just to